Hello, Consciously Parenting family, and welcome to the Conscious Coffee Break. I'm Jen Kobrick. I'm a holistic family consultant with the Consciously Parenting Project, and today we are talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you're not familiar with what this is, there will be a link in the notes that has an article about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, how it changed over the years, what the different parts of the pyramid are, and of course a visual of the pyramid. So what we're talking about today is how this shows up in our parenting. Because one of the things that we talk about a lot, one of the things that we get questions about from parents all the time, is when parents really want to do the absolute very best that they can for their children, as most of us do, and they include in that, for most parents, that includes meeting needs beyond just, feeding and bathing and changing diapers, right? So, of course, we know that children need those things. Children need to have their physical needs met. And most of us who are trying to consciously parent recognize that children's needs for safety, for love, for connection, that those are all important needs as well, and we strive to meet all of those needs. And for many parents, there's things included in the needs they'd like to meet for their child about their child's need for creative expression and intellectual stimulation and friendship, and so many needs beyond the most basic physical needs. And I think that's actually a great thing when parents are interested in meeting all of their child's needs, not just their most basic physical needs. And sometimes where this gets tricky for parents is where it feels like I could always do more to meet my child's needs. And then that starts to interfere with the parent's own needs being met. So then we see parents who are so beyond exhausted and overwhelmed and, burnt out, and still sometimes feeling like they're not doing enough, like there's more that they could be doing. And so there's a lot of pieces in there to unpack, but specifically what we're going to talk about today is a framework for how you can decide what is the most important need to meet right now. Because one of the questions that I get, as we talk through this, and people go, okay, I get it. I can't possibly, do all the things for my child all the time without taking care of myself. But how do I know if this is a moment where I need to tell my child, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that because I need to take care of me? Or if this is a moment where my needs can wait and I go take care of my child? And to be perfectly honest, the answer to that is a whole lot of practice. It is not something that comes overnight, the ability to check in with our own internal guidance and say, okay, this is what's the most important. So this is a framework that might help you start to get there, a way to start thinking about it. So in the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs looks like a pyramid if you're not familiar with how it's structured. So the base of the pyramid is those basic physiological needs: air, food, sleep, clothing, shelter, that sort of thing. Above that, the next level up is what's called safety needs. So physical safety, financial safety, food safety, health, those kinds of things. Above that is love and belonging. So love and belonging is, of course, connection within family, friendships. For adults, it can be connection in a wider community of people that share our values and that we feel like we belong with. It can be connection with a partner for adults. The next level above that is what's called esteem needs, which is things like respect, recognition, independence. And then the top of the pyramid is what's called self-actualization, which is the desire to become the most that one can be. So this is pursuits of passion projects, intellectual curiosity, creativity is part of this, artistic expression. And later on, Maslow expanded these top two sections to have a little bit more finesse to the levels of what types of expressions and needs are in what order. For our purposes today, that's not really necessary. So the general framework here is that the lower the needs are on the pyramid, the more they have to get met before we can move up to the next levels of the pyramid, right? So we can think in a really broad sense that, if your belly is hungry and you consistently don't have enough food, it's really hard to think about, self-transcendent composition of music, for example, right? It's really hard to think at the limits of our intellectual and creative capacities when we consistently don't have enough food. So that's not to say that we necessarily can't, move up the pyramid without the needs being completely met. I'm sure have all experienced as parents times when, for example, our sleep needs are not met perfectly, and yet we manage to, connect with someone and meet a love and belonging need because the opportunity is in front of us. And we may have also experienced times where our sleep needs were so poorly met, and maybe also our food needs and cleanliness needs and other basic physiological needs were so poorly met that our partner opened an opportunity for love and belonging needs to be met, and we did not take it. We reacted with anger, frustration, because our most basic needs were so poorly met that we couldn't function on that higher level. So these same things are true for us and for our children, that the more basic needs are met, the more we can operate in these higher levels, the more we can focus on meeting those higher level needs. And where this comes into play in terms of figuring out what is the most important, most urgent need right now is that we can think about that the lower a need is on the pyramid, the more urgent it is to be met, because it opens the door to being able to engage with all of these higher level needs. So if our child has a need for food, that need is more urgent than our child's need for intellectual curiosity to be satisfied, for example. And they will be far more able to satisfy their intellectual curiosity when they've been fed. And this also comes into play when we're thinking about our needs versus our children's needs. So as much as possible, we try to think about our needs and our children's needs being met and structure our lives so that everyone's needs get met. And there are moments within that where I cannot both get out the clay for you to make a creation with and feed myself. And so looking at those two things, the clay might satisfy some needs for creative expression, which are valid and important needs. The food satisfies one of my most basic physiological needs, though. So that being lower down the pyramid is the more urgent need in this moment. So that's a situation where I would tell my child, I'm happy to get the clay out for you after I eat, but I'm going to feed myself first. I'll be more able to help you with the clay when I've eaten. So when our needs are on the same level, then generally speaking, the older someone is, or the more mature they are, regardless of chronological age, the more they're able to wait, which is why our children, when they are hungry and screaming on the floor because are getting hangry, and we're also starving, we're generally able to keep it together like a few minutes longer and stick some food in front of them before we feed ourselves, right? So generally speaking, if everybody's got basic physiological needs that need to be met, then obviously that's where you focus first. And most of us have experienced as parents, sometimes needing to like put a pause on our own needs for a couple of minutes to, deal with the kids, because they have so much less capacity, especially as very young children, to wait while we take care of our own needs. And as we move up the pyramid of needs is where this really becomes an important thing to consider, though, because I see this all the time where, like the example with the clay, or a child wants help getting out a game, or a child wants to execute some pretend play idea that they have, or the child wants to call grandma, or the child wants to meet some love and belonging needs. They want to play and connect with the adult. And the adult feels like, oh, but those needs are important to me, and so I have to go meet them. And then, the adult focuses so much on meeting the child's needs that they end up so depleted in their own most basic needs, that they're not able to get through the day without, screaming or becoming so burnt out that they just can't anymore. So one way out of that is to think about this idea that the lower on the pyramid the needs are, the more urgent they are. So we can ask our child's higher on the pyramid needs to wait while we meet our own lower on the pyramid needs. So that even can include love and belonging, which we know as conscious parents how vital that connection with our children is. And we absolutely want to meet that need. And I absolutely want to help you meet that need for your children and for yourself. And if right now you got to eat or you're going to scream, the need for connection and attachment can wait 5 minutes while you eat. And this can go the other way too sometimes. If I'm connecting with my partner, maybe it's been several days since we were in the same place at the same time for more than 5 minutes, and we're finally getting a chance to connect with each other a little bit. So that's meeting that love and belonging need, and which is right in the middle of the pyramid if you don't have the visual in front of you. And my child comes to me with a creativity project. So that's at the high end of the pyramid. Again, I would say that can wait a couple minutes while I meet my need, and then I can help you meet your higher up need. If my child comes to me while I'm in the middle of meeting that love and belonging need, and they're, they are starving, they're hangry, that's lower on the pyramid. So I'm going to ask my partner to hold on a minute or help me get a snack for the child and meet that need, and then come back to the love and belonging needs. And certainly I've experienced, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's experienced that I'm trying to meet some of those higher needs. Maybe I'm working on a knitting project or some other creative project. And again, my child comes to me with a need that is lower on the pyramid, a more basic physiological need. I will, again, see that as the more urgent need to pause and go help them meet their need and then return to it. So I hope that helps to bring some structure to help start thinking about those decisions about, what is the most urgent, most important thing to handle in this moment. And I also, last thing I want to put out there to consider is that when I'm talking about what's the most urgent in this moment, it does not mean the other needs go away or are not important. And I'm not saying that you never meet your needs for these higher level things like creativity and connection. Pause means for a relatively short period of time. If you're finding that it's always pause on the higher level needs, that you're struggling to just meet the more basic needs and never managing to get to where the higher level needs are met for anyone in the family, that's a really good sign that some more support is needed. And that's a really good sign that something needs to be changed about the relationship or about the structures that support you. And so if that's the case, I want to invite you to come send us a message or post something in our free Consciously Parenting community group, and let us help you, let us support you, and let us help you figure out a structure that will feel better for your family. Because those higher level needs are really important. They are really, really important. They're just more able to wait and allow the lower needs to be filled. But that doesn't mean that they should go away forever. So as always, please feel free to ask your questions and comments in the comment section. If you know anyone who this sounds like, please feel free to share the video so that we can reach more parents who need to hear this. And you can always post in our free group or send us a message if you could use some more support and community. And I will see you next week on the Conscious Coffee Break.